So I'm speaking to you today about one kind of adaptation. The adaptation of education through technology. And we're going to look at the basics in 30 minutes, 7 laws, and 3 questions. So let's start off with law number 1. And if you do not know law number 1, you shouldn't be in this room. And if you're listening and you don't know law number 1, please tune out because the whole rest of the presentation is wasted on you. Law number 1 is that the processing power becomes cheaper by the year at 30%. It's Moore's law. We all know Moore's law. But we do not understand the implications of Moore's law. Stuff processing power becomes cheaper by 30% per year. That means by 97% in a decade. Look at this. Processing power that you paid in today's money, $100 10 years ago, is now only $3. Never before in the history of the world had prices dropped so dramatically. Technology mostly has the effect to have prices come down. We are bewitched by nominal prices, which are inflated, so that we do not understand properly that in real terms, stuff gets cheaper. In 1800, by a wicker candle, the average worker had to, if he had worked 1 hour, he could purchase only 10 minutes of artificial reading light. Today, with our condensed incandescent lamp, 1 hour of work of the average worker buys 300 days of artificial reading light. Look at this one. In 1972, the cost of memory then, if they had to manufacture an iPhone, the cost would have been $128 million US dollars. Maybe the American military could afford. But now here's the rub, as the Bard of Stratford said. What must we deduce from the following? Look at that. I can select any number of graphs like that that tell you that relative to the consumer price index, median family income, medical care, and college tuition fees are way up there. Now, in the light of what I've said about technology pushing prices down, about this dramatic fall in prices of processing power, why do you think that happens? If we look at a phenomenon like that, what is one thing that we can deduce from that? Facts that I gave you and that chart. Come on, anybody want to guess? Oh, you're now all shy, blushing wallflowers. Let me give it to you. Clearly, one should ask, or one should deduce, that digital technology at least has not taken hold enough of tertiary education. You cannot have prices dropping at 30% a year, 97% in a decade, and then that thing happens. Cannot. So if you go, and you must have all partaken in this kind of a discussion on why are prices going up? Because clearly that is something that is, I mean, why would we pay more college tuition fees than open heart surgery? I mean, that's basically what it boils down to per unit. But that's obviously the wrong question to ask. What would be the right question to ask? The right question to ask would be, why doesn't the cost of tertiary education go down? That's the right question to ask. But the situation gets even worse. If digital technology drives prices down by 30% per year, 97% over a decade, worst is still to come. Because cheaper, zero price, zero cost. That is one of the effects of the digital revolution. So let's take at one small part, now only offering 3% globally of the NASPERS profit, the print newspaper industry. Classifieds supplied, prior to the internet, 32% of the profits of newspapers. Nice. I mean, how difficult is it to paste that kind of an ad in a newspaper? You will note that it's not the high-flown ideals, you know, the critics of society, the editorials, none of that stuff that brought the bacon in. It was something as menial as that. And then one guy pops up, Clive Newark, and he offers the classified ads for zero. That man single-handedly is responsible for having the print newspaper industry being in the dire straits it is now. There are, of course, other examples. Just think of Garmin and TomTom. You spent all this money in creating these sat-nav systems. Then up pops Google and say, you know what? You can get it for free. And in your hearts of hearts, you might think, these ogres of capitalism, you know, killing these businesses. But, well, will you again fork out money for a TomTom? No, you won't. You've got maps for free. So this is the world in which we compete, where it's not just a price war. Can we offer at a better price, that price relationship? We compete against people who ask zero. Cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. So that's law one. Moore's law. Prices are driven down by technology at the speed of gravity. Now we get to law two. Law two says the privilege of the few becomes the opportunity of the many. With a camera, everybody becomes a portrait painter. The flip side of that, of course, is that you realize that before 1850, with the invention of photography, only the very richest people knew how their ancestors looked like who died before they were born. Only the richest people could afford portrait painters. Now, the privilege of the few has become the opportunity of the many. But then, of course, we still had a couple of individuals, privileged individuals, being photographers. Kodak came with their box camera, and suddenly the privilege of the few photographers become the privilege of the many. But yet the story is not completed. When I was a young boy, I bought my own developing chemicals. We lived in a house with only one bathroom. So when I wanted to develop as a 10, 11-year-old schoolboy my photographs, everybody was prohibited from going to the bathroom. I had a yellow light in my room. Oh, I was the only boy in my entire primary school who did that kind of a thing. And when I reached high school, I think there was one other boy. But I can still remember the days when to develop photographs, that was the process. In Pretoria, you took it to the pharmacist. Some pharmacists developed it themselves. They could actually there was a time when pharmacists actually could do chemistry. You wouldn't believe it, they actually could do chemistry. And if you wanted color photographs, it was sent away. The privilege of the few becomes the opportunity of the many. Now everybody is a printer. And this democratizing effect of technology is one of its most powerful features that often get neglected in our discussions. Well, then we get to law 3. It will become mobile. Look at how photography started off. Can you guys see that American presidential candidate with that funny little thing behind his head? That was to clamp his head dead still because it took more than an hour to actually make the exposure. No. So, but this is now a trend in all technology. It goes from go to and suddenly everywhere and with me. When I was a young man growing up in South Africa and we watched American movies, it was a curious thing that when they spoke over the telephone, their telephones had long cables. They could walk around and speak over the telephone. Whereas for some unfathomable reason, the South African telecom said that the cable will be this short and you will sit like this and talk. Look where we are. People, it will go mobile. You cannot stop that. Law 4. What is unique? Like this beautiful medieval hand-painted and written manuscript can be copied. In living memory, that is to say my memory. The then Carnegie Library in my second year in Stellenbosch University got a Xerox copying machine. And my eyes lit up. It changed my class-going habits. Because now for the price of my charming personality and a smile to the most studious, mousy girl in the front desk of the class, I could get her notes and have it photocopied. It changed my university life. I am the social person I am today because of Xerox. So now we get to law 5. What was manual becomes automatic. This is so obvious, but I just mention it for completeness sake. You know, we sat with a dictionary, and then there's a spell checker. No need to go on about this. This is the obvious one, but it must be stated. But the result of this is so important, and that is everything gets faster, 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 faster. The rate of adoption of technology gets faster, faster, faster. Bill Raditzel, the ex-Harvard economics professor, ex-financial chief officer of Sun Microsystems, and the ex-information officer of A.L. Warner, tells me the experiment he saw recently. You know, you see these movies with the divorced couple, but they don't know where the dog will go. So they each stand there and says, come to me, come to me. Now what the guys did, the experiment was with the mother and an iPad. So mother stands here, iPad is there. The 2.5-year-old is there. The mothers lost out completely. Bill says he saw the video of the experiment. The mothers went out crying in despair. 2.5-year-old babies chose iPads before they chose their mothers. The rate of it just gets faster, faster, faster. And now I throw a thought in. How long does it take you to write a textbook? What's the average? How long? Okay, I rest my case. Law 6. Distribution gets disrupted. And this is the one thing that we often forget about digital technologies. It is the distribution process that gets disrupted that changes the entire game. In the old days of newspapers, there was this factory. So you literally manufactured a newspaper with industrial revolution type technology. And then you had to get it to the various points, vending points, with lorries or by train. And in the end, obviously, on a little guy on his bicycle. And we had control of the scoop. And newspapers had to get enough advertising to cover the cost of the distribution and manufacturing. Not the cost of the news gathering, the cost of the distribution and of the manufacturing. And this little boy on his bicycle shouting scoop, on one good morning, gets superseded by the new scoop. Where distribution cost is close to zero, where the manufacturing cost is close to zero, which is instantaneous, instantaneously call up a network. This has got dire implications for the academic industry. I just had to fake one formula. Is that okay? I just had to fake one. It looks intellectual, doesn't it? The ability to copy, remember our third law, plus the ability to distribute at close to zero cost, plus the falling cost of storing information. Can you see the tsunami coming? Leads to the destruction of the time value of IP. You think your IP is valuable. People, it's dropping by the day. Let me give you one example I recently had. I did, back in those days at Stellenbosch University, an honors course, one class a week throughout the year, in medieval Dutch. How many people here did a course in medieval Dutch? No! Funny, hey? Perhaps some of the guys listening in or viewing us did a course in medieval Dutch. So 2 years ago, I'm asked to work on an Afrikaans cultural project. And part of this project is that I've got to translate a couple of lines of a medieval Dutch poem in Afrikaans. And there's just one word that I was not quite sure of. So now I sit there. How many people do you think are left in South Africa that have done a course in medieval Dutch, let alone being an authority in medieval Dutch? Now, we'll just take the offhand chance. I type the 2 lines in and the translation comes up. Can you imagine, there's somewhere in South Africa, there are 2 or 3 people who did more than 1 year in medieval Dutch, who thought that their knowledge was extremely precious and valuable. 0. 0. Precious knowledge, not as valuable as you thought. So in print media, that's what happened to print media. We lost the scoop to Twitter. We lost classified advertising, 32% of our revenue. And news has become a commodity. Any one of you want to enter the industry? Oh, you of little faith. Okay, so this brings us now to law 7. Individual choice rules. Forget the days of vinyl, let's just go to CDs. So Shakira comes with the latest CD. I see a couple of grey heads here. Wouldn't know what your taste would be, but let's stay with Shakira, it's shapely. So there's this one smashing hit, but you've got to buy the damn whole CD, all the other mediocre ones. It's like studying for an MBA. It's like studying for an MBA. There's one guy at the business school in Stellenbosch University who does not talk me to sleep, and with whom I can catch a glimmer of inspiration. But I've got to take the 6 other guys who barely prevent me from falling asleep, and the absolute duds, the other 3. Why should I buy the CD? Because individual choice rules, and it's the era of the playlist. So now we get to our 3 questions. You're not going to remember all 7 the laws. Should I repeat them? Are you happy with them? But you'll now see how they apply. So what is the first question that you must ask when you want to transform an institution? The first question you must ask, who are the losers? Who are the losers? Now the answer to that should be very clear from the presentation, isn't it? We know who they are. The privileged few, the location bound, the unique, the manual, the slow, the expensive, those limiting choice. They become our natural prey when we start revamping, totally transforming organizations. This is the easy question, okay. The second question must be quite obvious after this one. Guess what's the second question? Who are they in your institutions? So instead of scouting for the latest technologies and stuff, you must first do an audit in your institution. Who are the privileged few? Who or what are the unique, the expensive, the slow? Who are those that are location bound? Who are they at your university? If you want to transform the institution, you do that audit and then you target those individuals, functions, posts, whatever they are, processes. This is how you find your way to a solution. But first you must ask yourself a very important question. Do you want to play at transformation? Or are you serious about it? If you are serious about it, then ask the following question. Over the next 10 years, how can we cut our staff by 50%? How can we, in 10 years, double our student numbers and drive cost to student down by 50%? If you're serious, that's the question that you would ask. Because digital technologies are, per definition, software technologies. And Mark Andreessen, the inventor of Netscape, of whose end product we all now use to navigate the World Wide Web, now the name partner in Andreessen Horowitz Venture Capitalist, says, this wonderful metaphor, software eats the world. I think somebody from the medical sciences was seriously worried the other day whether our brains are going to gobbled up, but I'm quite sure you arrived in a car here, didn't you? Which, that didn't bother you so much, eh? Okay, but it's the software. The software actually gobbles us up. I'm just a fake academic, so I thought that I would go on, for the whole fake process and ask for a peer review. So I sent this off for a peer review. The answer I got was, no, 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 no. The classroom is already mobile. Cut 99% of your staff over the next 10 years and offer learning for free. Over the top? Yeah. But in a disruptive economy, and digital technologies creates a disruptive economy, you cannot optimize yourself into survival and success. You cannot tweak and play with the technologies. Oh, it would be nice if we could do this. And you know what? Blogs can also do. That's not how you're going to survive. You are living the same world that ate newspapers. You can't optimize yourself into success in a disruptive environment. Strategy 101. Thank you so much for your attention. I enjoyed it.